We're going to begin this morning with the latest on the midterm elections and what broke late last night, that new majority in the House of Representatives.
That's right. NBC News is projecting that Republicans will control the House for the next 2 years after winning enough seats to have a majority in the chamber. The win that put it over the top for the GOP, that came in California's 27th congressional district, where Republican incumbent Mike Garcia defeated Democratic challenger Christy Smith. The GOP's slim majority in the House means divided government will return to Washington, with Democrats controlling the Senate. And this morning, both parties are assessing the fallout from the midterms while looking toward what the next 2 years will bring on Capitol Hill.
We have team coverage for you on all these key developments this morning. NBC News Capitol Hill correspondent Allie Raffa is here, along with NBC News senior political editor Mark Murray, and our anchor buddy, by the way, on the day post-election. And here we are, still post-election results rolling in. Good to have you both with us. Allie, I will begin with you. We want to talk about what this new round of sort of the split in Congress means for both parties. We know overall it likely means a lot of gridlock. So I want to ask you something specific that maybe we can kind of understand. What could this mean for the future of existing committees, like, for example, the January 6th committee in the House?
Yeah, well, that's just one of the things that we expect to change. When you look at the slim majorities that the Democrats have on the Senate side and Republicans have on the House side, you can see how difficult it's going to be for President Biden and Congress to get anything done these last 2 years of President Biden's first term. A Democratic Senate majority no doubt gives President Biden an advantage when filling key committee assignments, filling judicial appointments, filling a Supreme Court seat if the opportunity arises over the next 2 years. But a Republican majority in the House really is setting up just a stalling of President Biden's agenda. House Republicans have already said, they've been saying for months, that they plan to investigate Hunter Biden, President Biden's son, and his business dealings. They plan to start impeachment proceedings. They've already said that they plan to dissolve the January 6th committee investigating the attack on the Capitol as it stands right now. They've also said that they plan to pass a bill to secure the border within their first few weeks of reaching this majority. So definitely teeing up a very difficult 2 years, but there's already been an olive branch extended. We saw President Biden last night when Republicans reached that 218 seat threshold to reach the majority, congratulate Republicans and say he's willing to work across the aisle to get something done over the next 2 years.
And Mark, I want to bring you in here because notably it took more than a week for the GOP to get this majority in the House after already losing out on the Senate. So what do you think that says in terms of their messaging to voters this cycle, especially after their predictions of a red wave in the midterms?
Yeah, of all the surprises that we ended up seeing from the election, maybe the biggest surprise of all was that it took 8 days to call the House of Representatives in control for Republicans. Remember, Republicans only needed to flip a net of 5 seats to win control, one of the lowest bars that we've seen over the last century in covering American politics and midterm elections. And Republicans ended up doing it. But what it really does show you is that red wave that so many people were talking about, and even some Democrats had been fearing, really did fizzle out. And when you ended up taking President Biden's low approval ratings, the 70% of Americans who think the country was headed in the wrong direction, the thought was that that was going to topple Democratic incumbents as well as have Republicans win open seats. But as we ended up seeing, Democrats actually held their own, whether it was their incumbents or some of those open seats. And that's why it took so long to call the race, in addition to those long counts that we've all been following in California and the West Coast.
Let's talk about leadership now. And Allie, now that the GOP has this majority locked up, where things stand with Kevin McCarthy's campaign to become Speaker. Also, what does this mean for Nancy Pelosi's future in the House?
Yeah, so we're expecting to hear from House Speaker Nancy Pelosi later this morning about her future plans. She could either decide to stay in Democratic leadership that she's held for almost 2 decades now, or decide to step down. I know we saw President Biden wish for the latter earlier this week, hoping she would stay in Congress. As far as the House's top Republican, Kevin McCarthy, this is nearly a decade-long road for him to become Speaker, and it still facing roadblocks. We saw him win that nomination earlier this week against House Freedom Caucus member Congressman Andy Biggs, who decided to challenge McCarthy at the last minute. Andy Biggs only getting 31 votes in his caucus, but those 31 votes are votes that Kevin McCarthy is going to need on January 3rd when the final election for the speakership happens. So that we've seen Freedom Caucus members really withhold their support for McCarthy, saying that they're making a list of demands, demanding some concessions by McCarthy to win their support. At the end of the day, the reality is that McCarthy needs those House Freedom Caucus members just as much as they need him to get anything done over the next 2 years, Savannah.
And I'd love to end wide, Mark, because we have a clear picture now on the majorities in both chambers of Congress. So what's your lasting impression from these midterm elections? Do you think these results will serve as a roadmap for both parties in the years to come?
Yeah, my takeaway is just how little actually changed despite the billions of dollars spent and all of the 2 years of campaigning. And what we ended up seeing on the House side is that only 7 incumbents ended up losing re-election, 5 Democrats and 2 Republicans. We saw only 1 incumbent governor go down to defeat. That was Nevada Democrat Steve Sisolak. And not a single incumbent senator ended up losing re-election, although we still need to watch what ended up happening in that Georgia runoff for next month. But you all add all of those things up and you just see how little the political movement really, the political lines barely budge this midterm cycle as now we all head into 2024.
Mark Murray and Allie Raffa, thank you both so much.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.